Got the knockdown challenge. Here's how it works. Whoever can knock down those cups over there with the least amount of shots wins. Let's do it! Alright, let's go!
Okay.
Two.
Yeah!
3 shots. Yeah.
I can't follow that.
Alright, let's do it, man. Alright, next up, Christina!
I hit more down than Jordan did.
Alright, Katie, you're up. Let's do it.
Like that.
Good try, Katie. Good try. Alright, let's do it.
That's it. This is what you did.
Caleb!
Hey, good run, good run, good run.
Molly.
Good try, Lisa! Alright, best man, let's do it. Come on. Oh! Good try, good try, good try. Alright, Carla! This. First it was last week with the dumb cups not hanging right up. Now it's the cups hate me. Carlos is the winner! All right. I'm gonna go into the media suite and see if I can get Jordan to help me out with something. I have a test for me and my friend Jordan. What's up, media suite? Jordan, I need your help. Okay, you wanna help me out?
Sure.
I need you to trust fall.
Okay.
Trust fall? Okay, listen, can you hold this?
Okay.
All right, can you do it for me?
Yeah, I'll do it for you.
You do it for me? All right, here we go. I trust you, Jordan. Ugh. There you go. See, I gave you a few times, but you still caught me. All right, your turn.
Yeah.
You didn't trust me. You take your seat.
No. What was that? No, I didn't feel the comfort. You know, I didn't feel
Why
him.
didn't you feel
I was
the
going
comfort?
low. I didn't know he was gonna grab me that late.
Bro, you're breaking my heart.
No, it's my feet.
We do it again?
Yeah,
You
we'll
trust
do
me?
it again,
Okay.
yes. Do it again. And go.
You've been tripping.
Jordan! It's like a habit, you know. It's like
Jordan, you don't trust him.
What am I supposed to do? I do. He caught me. Because if I feel like if I fall straight back, my butt's gonna hit the floor. That's what it feels like. It's like a.
Because you don't trust
You know
him.
your body.
It's fine, Jordan. It's okay.
my
I
legs.
love you. You don't have to let me back. It's fine.
I trust you, but my legs
fine.
don't. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so the reason why I had me and Jordan play the trust fall game with one another was because today we are talking about a familiar subject, and that is the subject of faith. Oh, it's been raining outside. When you hear the word faithful, what do you think of? It is raining so hard. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. When you hear the word faithful, what do you think of? Do you think of Old Faithful, the geyser in Yellowstone Park? Maybe for those who have been in bad relationships, you think of being faithful to one another because maybe someone cheated on you, or maybe the other way around, or whatever. Or maybe like me, you think of faithfulness as this spiritual having trust in God. And today, that is actually what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about faith. Faith is another fruit of the Spirit. It's another characteristic of God. It's another part of who He is. And for us to better know who He is, we need to better understand what it means to have faith. So today we're going to talk about that. We're talking about identifying faith, how we can use it, when we can use it, and honestly, how we can let it be a part of our everyday lives. Today's message is titled, Trust Fall. Okay, so to get today's lesson started, we're going to Hebrews chapter 11, starting in verse 1. To have faith is to be sure of the things we hope for, to be certain of the things we cannot see. Okay, so a few months ago, we actually talked about the topic of faith and what it means. So I want to go over a quick few reminders, a refresher, if you will, of what it means to have faith and what the word faith actually even means. In the ancient Greek, which is what the New Testament was written in, the word faith we read in the Greek is the word pistis, P-I-S-T-I-S. Or that's the English way to say it. And it basically actually directly translates to another word, which is the word trust. Pistis equals trust. And what that means for us today, and the reason why those words are so interchangeable, faith and trust, is because we have, I think, as a society and even as a Christian culture, kind of glossed over what the word faith usually means. Now, here's what I mean. People usually think of faith like a thermometer. If I have little faith, if I only believe in God a little bit, I only have this much faith. But if I believe in God more, whatever that means, then I will have this much faith. But I don't think that's how we should look at faith and look at trust. Faith is not a mathematical term. It's not a term to measure how much you believe in God or how much trust you have in God, but rather but rather it's a relationship. It's not about a gauge. It's not about trying to measure anything. It's really just about your trust with God. Here's another way of looking at this. When you first meet someone, do you automatically have 100% trust with that person? Probably not. I'm sure you have some trust with that person, and you know, if you're a nice person, if they're a nice person, you kind of go, man, seems like a nice guy. But you would not trust them with your bank account. You would not trust them with maybe giving them your keys to your car. There's just a certain level of trust that you have not reached yet. And so our faith in God is all about our trust in God. And as we talk about this today, I want that to be in the back of our minds, that when we're talking about faith, it's not a level, it's not a meter, it's not a thermometer, it's not some gauge of how much you believe in God, but rather it's all about your relationship and how much you trust God. Okay, so with that being said, today we're gonna go over a few kind of qualifiers, identifiers of what it means to have faith. Some things that we need to remember about faith, because there's some things that I think we don't think about when it comes to faith. There are some things that we kind of dismiss or we don't really think about. And so today I'm gonna go over 3 different areas of faith that I think mean a lot to our walk with Jesus. So for point number 1, we're going to Romans chapter 12, starting in verse 2. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Have you ever heard of the term growing the faith? Part of being a Christ follower is learning that our journey with Christ is all about learning how to continually grow. And that's really because trust can always grow. Here's what I mean. So my daughter Aria is kind of a daredevil. She is fearless. She loves to jump off the couch. She loves to run outside and just get into everything. She loves bugs. However, it didn't always start that way. So I remember at this one point in Aria's life, she was young and she wanted me to pick her up from the couch, and she was standing where you were sitting. So she's, doing this, asking me to pick her up, and I decided to have a little fun with her. It's like, Aria, come jump. And at first she was like, yeah, no, Dad, not gonna happen. And it took her a few tries over, some time to trust me to catch her if she were to jump off the couch. Now, that was a really fun experience. She was able to learn and to trust me and to grow a little bit there. But now she is not afraid anymore to jump off the couch. In fact, she will jump on me when I'm not looking. But my point is this, is that trust can grow. There is a factor that we have to remember when it comes to our relationship with God, is that we have to have trust in Him. In order to have trust in Him, we have to learn how to grow that trust. Okay, so now that we know that we can grow our trust, how do we do that? So in this passage of scripture, it talks about the mind. It talks about being transformed by the renewing of our mind. What does that mean? Well, in the Greek, the word mind is actually a prolonged version of the verb to know. In other words, in order for us to be transformed and to trust God more and to have a better relationship with Him, we need to know God more. How do we know someone better? We spend more time with them. It's a simple concept, but sometimes it's not a very easy concept. We have to choose to know God more and more, and that means we have to choose to spend time with Him. We have to choose to be able to build our trust by being in relationship with Him, by reading our Bible more, by praying more, by worshiping more, by meditating more, by spending more time with Him, and also doing the things that He has called us to do. That's how we build our relationship with God, and that's how we therefore build our trust with God, and therefore how we build our faith with God. Now, here's a really important thing I want you to remember in all this, is that God isn't forceful. God is very powerful and He is very strong, and if He really wanted to, He could just snap His fingers and everyone would magically have this super amazing relationship with Him. But then that wouldn't be free will. Rather, when it comes to our relationship with God, it's all on us. It's about what can we do to have that relationship with Him. He is always willing. He is always 100% wanting an intimate, close relationship with us. He sent His Son to die down for us. He wants us. There's no mistaking it. So what it comes down to is, are we willing to choose to have a relationship with Him? Are we choosing to get to know Him? Are we choosing to get to trust Him by having a relationship with Him? All right, next up, we're going to Galatians chapter 6, starting in verse 9. It says this: "Let us not be weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Okay, so I have a bit of a confession to make. I have not been to the gym since April, and I am feeling it. I basically feel like Gollum at this point, except with a bigger gut. I recently, in the past few months, have been trying to lift some weights at home, and I only have 15-pound dumbbells. And I've quickly remembered a very important fact about being healthy and about going to the gym, is that growth takes time. Growing muscle, growing a healthy body takes a lot of time. And in this time that we're in right now, it's been very frustrating for me to not see quick results when I can't go to the gym and trying to do things at home with, the kids and whatever. I say that because point number 2 is sowing and reaping. When it comes to our faith, sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a while to grow that trust with God, and that's okay. I don't think God is expecting us when we're first starting out a relationship with Him is to just 100% dive in to have complete 100% trust with Him. That's kind of hard to do. It's kind of impossible to do. But rather, what we see here is we see that God actually wants us to just plant a seed. There's another passage of scripture where Jesus is talking about faith and how the amount of faith needed to move a mountain can be the size of a mustard seed. And if you don't know how small a mustard seed, it's small. What Jesus is saying here is that even just a little faith, a little trust in Him can go a long way. And when it comes to growing our faith, sometimes we just need to be patient. We need to just trust God more and more, wait for the results. Okay, so rabbit trail for a second. Do you know what tumbleweeds are? I'm sure if you've seen Western movies or cartoons, it's those little dead things that roll across the desert as two gunslingers are about to go at it. For the longest time, I didn't realize that those things were actually real living plants, sort of. So there's this plant called the Rose of Jericho, and it's a plant that lives in the desert. And what it does is that when there is no to little rain, it will shrivel up, it will look like it's dead in a way, and it will kind of form up into this ball, and it will allow the wind to blow it wherever the wind takes it. And essentially, it'll wait for the rain to drop its seed so that way it can grow new plants. Here's the more remarkable thing I learned about tumbleweeds, is that some of these plants can wait up to 10 years. Some of these plants will just stumble across the desert, just floating around doing nothing for 10 years. But then once there's a drop of rain, once there's just a little bit of rain, it can bloom into life, and it can flourish and have fruit. And the reason why I bring up this story is because sometimes that's what our faith and our journey with God is going to look like. There's going to be seasons where God has promised us something, and we're going to have to put our trust in Him and just plant a seed of trust down and expect that God is going to be faithful, that He's going to do what He says He's going to do. And sometimes it means waiting for more than 2 minutes. And it's really hard for us in this generation where we have iPhones and microwaves and computers that go really fast, and 5G network and all these different things that are really quick. But let me encourage you, if you are having trouble with trusting God a lot, don't feel weary. put just a little faith down. Just allow God to move in the little things. Trust God with the small things day to day and see that your faith will grow over time. See that your trust in God is going to grow every single day. But don't stop putting that trust down. Don't stop putting those seeds of hope down, because God is faithful and He will fulfill His promises. Point number 3, we're going to Psalms chapter 37, starting in verse 4. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Point number 3 is faith produces desire. Now, have you ever wanted something really stupid before? I'm thinking back to when I was 10 years old and the movie Shrek came out. People loved Shrek back then just as much as they do now, basically. At the time, Heinz Ketchup decided to go with this. Basically, they changed the color of their ketchup to green. It looked really gross and it looked really kind of disgusting, but it was the craze. It was the thing. And you were really cool if you brought some green ketchup to school one day and to put it on your tots or whatever. And as I think about it now, I just realized that was kind of dumb. Man, Heinz was just selling us this green ketchup because it just looked green, and there was no difference in taste, there was no difference in texture or whatever. It was just green ketchup. But there's other things too that I remember wanting that were kind of dumb. Like, I wanted a skateboard, and I got a skateboard, and there's nothing wrong with skateboards, it's just I wasn't very good at skateboarding at all. And I remember one time too, and this happened a few times, but when I was in middle school and high school, I remember I would pray to God and ask Him for girls to like me. Like, not just girls in general, like particular girls. I would ask God for this, for God to somehow change their minds about me, to have feelings for me. Kind of pathetic, right? kind of misses the point about a relationship. And my point is that sometimes we ask God for really dumb things. Sometimes when we ask God for things, we don't really know what we're asking for or why we're asking for it, or sometimes it's just the wrong thing to ask for. Because ultimately we're always growing, we're always learning new things. And I mean, I can imagine there are so many things that you can think of in your life when you were younger that are like completely dumb, things that you didn't need, things that you got but you wish you hadn't got. I say all that because God knows the desires of our heart, and He knows what is best for us, and He knows what we need right here, right now, and for our future. And a lot of times when it comes to faith, we get upset because we will ask God for something, and rather He'll tell us no, we won't get it immediately, or it takes forever to get it, and we feel like God is not listening, or He doesn't care, or He's rejecting us. But I like to think of it this way, is that sometimes God knows what we want more than what we do. And sometimes it just means that He has something better for us. It means that what we're asking for isn't good enough. And that's an exciting thing to think about too. God knows what we need. You see, when we delight in Him, when we choose to have a relationship with Him, when we choose to worship Him and to be close to Him, even when we don't feel comfortable, even when things aren't going well, over time, our desires will begin to align up with His desires. Here's an example. When Jessica and I first got married, I can't believe this happened. And I can't believe I didn't know about this until we got married. Jessica had never seen Star Wars. She, I think, maybe seen 1 or 2 movies, but she had not seen everything. And so when she first started watching Star Wars, it was just like a casual thing for her. But for me, if you know me, I love Star Wars. But here's the remarkable thing is that over time, as Jessica began to, one, have a stronger relationship with me, but also get to watch the movies, her desires began to align up with my desires. And she began to really like Star Wars more and more, and to the point to where she now loves it just as much as I do. We love to wait for Friday nights right now to watch The Mandalorian. And it goes both ways. There are some shows that Jessica has introduced me to that I never thought I would get into. Things that I'm like, yeah, that's not a guy show. But things like The Gilmore Girls or The Great British Baking Show, things that at first, if it were just up to me, I would not want to watch, but because Jessica likes to watch them, I don't mind watching them with her. I actually enjoy spending time with her watching those shows. And it's the same way with our relationship with God, is when we choose to delight in Him, when we choose to get a closer relationship with Him, when we choose to get to know Him more and more, our desires begin to align up with His desires. And God will be faithful to His promises. And I trust that God will, because He has for me already, and He probably already has for you as well. So let me encourage you today, as we're talking about faith and we're talking about trust, give your trust to God. Give your faith to Him, even if it's just a small amount, like a mustard seed. Our faith in God is going to be dependent on how much we are willing to give into it. How much are we willing to work it? How much are we willing to put our hearts and our desires into Him? Let me encourage you, when you put your faith and trust in God, He will be faithful. He will put the desires of our hearts in front of His mind. He will allow those things to come to fruition. It may take time, but it will happen. And also, not only will those things happen, things that we want, but the better thing out of all this is that we will have a firmer, stronger relationship with Him.